Before the tempest of betrayal swept into my life, I was Marco Phillips, a devoted husband and a man who believed in simple joys. My days at the library were marked by the scent of old books and the soft rustle of pages turning, a sanctuary that cocooned me in stories where love always triumphed. I cherished those nights spent with Sarah, laughter bubbling over shared meals as we whipped up dinners together, dreaming aloud about starting a family that mirrored the happiness we created. But underneath that idyllic surface, cracks were beginning to form. I would catch these fleeting glances from her, distant and dismissive, like she was concocting her own narrative while I was clinging desperately to ours. Our conversations turned stilted, filled with unsaid words, like storms gathering in silence before the first drop of rain hits. On certain nights, when her laughter suddenly felt sharp instead of warm, I brushed the feeling away. I was naive, convinced the love we had was invincible, ignoring the whispers of distrust that echoed in my heart. Now, as I look back on those moments, I see how blind I truly was, lost in the comforting fog of my own denial. The day everything unraveled was marked by an unusual heaviness in the air, thick like the humidity before a summer storm. I remember standing in front of the kitchen window, watching the trees sway gently in the breeze, while my heart raced, sensing the trouble brewing just beyond my sight. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows across the floor, a pattern that mirrored the shifting dynamics between Sarah and me. It was a Saturday morning, and the world outside felt bright and alive, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. Sarah had been quieter than usual. I attributed it to the stress of her job, but as I poured our coffee, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, her brows knitted together in concentration. I recalled the days when we would share everything. She would tell me about her meetings, her triumphs, her struggles. Now, the silence felt heavy, each sip of coffee amplifying the distance between us. "Are you okay?" I finally dared to ask, breaking the spell of silence that had settled around us. She looked up, startled, as if she had forgotten I was there. "Yeah, just busy with work stuff," she said, dismissing me with a wave of her hand. But there was an edge to her tone, a weariness that felt foreign. I masked my concern with a reassuring smile, but inside, I felt my unease grow like a weed in a well-tended garden. As the weeks passed, my discomfort began to manifest in small but unmistakable signs. Sarah took longer at work, her phone constantly chirping with messages I never got to see. There were late nights filled with vague excuses, a sudden need for privacy that wrapped around her like the clouds engulfing the sky before the rain. I always wanted to trust her, to believe that our love was strong enough to weather the storms that so often pelted relationships. Yet the whispers of doubt were persistent and relentless. It was one night, while lying in bed, that my fears collided head-on with reality. The air in the room felt charged, and I could hear the muffled sounds of the world outside drifting through the window, cars passing, the distant laughter of neighbors. But all I could focus on was Sarah's back turned toward me, her silhouette outlined in the pale light from the street lamp outside. The distance felt monumental, a chasm that had opened between us without a sound, and I couldn't resist the urge any longer. I reached out, brushing my hand against her shoulder. "Can we talk?" I asked gently. She turned to face me, eyes filled with a mixture of weariness and irritation. "Really, Marco, it's late. I'm tired." I felt my stomach twist. The hurt laced through her words stung, but I pressed on. "I'm worried about you, about us." Her expression shifted. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, a flash of annoyance quickly masked by a steely reserve. "I promise, everything is fine." "Is it?" I countered, frustration bubbling up inside me, the echoes of doubt becoming a chorus. "Because it doesn't feel that way." "I just need some space, okay?" Space. The word hung between us,
heavy and suffocating. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand to know what lay behind the walls she had built so high. But instead, I retreated into silence, feeling defeated. In the days that followed, the emotional distance morphed into a suffocating silence that clouded our once vibrant home. Every corner, every room we had filled with laughter and memories now echoed with the absence of warmth. I buried myself in my work at the library, immersing myself in the lives of fictional characters while my own crumbled in the shadows. I thought about confrontation, but the thought of losing her completely was a pit I couldn't bear to face. Then came the day of the will reading. It had been a somber affair, the air thick with unspoken grief and regret. I sat among my cousins as we awaited the reading of my father's will, a gathering that felt more like a funeral than a celebration of his life. As the lawyer, Mr. Jacobs, cleared his throat, the grim reality of our loss loomed over us, heavy as a leaden sky. When my name was finally spoken, I felt my heart pound in my chest. "Marco Phillips," Mr. Jacobs announced, his voice reverberating in the quiet room. "You are to receive a piece of your father's legacy." I held tightly to a frayed piece of paper in my hands, my father's handwritten note, feeling both reverent and terrified. What floated in the air felt like more than just monetary value. It felt like dreams once woven in innocence. But then I remembered the tension from the last family gatherings. The hushed conversations that instantly fell silent when I approached. A sense of belonging slipping through my fingers like sand. My cousins gathered around me, and as the lawyer continued, their faces twisted in glee, their eyes brightening with the millions they would inherit. I was handed silence, whispers behind closed doors, a missed opportunity stretching out like a chasm I would never traverse. As the reading drew to a close, a chill ran through me when the door swung open and 2 FBI agents entered the room. Their polished shoes sounded sharp against the wooden floor, and my heart sank as I interpreted the seriousness in their demeanor. "Miss Matthews, we have some questions regarding your conduct and an investigation into a hidden account," one of the agents said, his voice steady and authoritative. Suddenly, all eyes turned towards her, and I watched as Sarah's face drained of color, bewilderment flashing briefly before an impenetrable mask of control replaced it. In that moment, I understood the depth of her betrayal, the intertwining of her secrets with the ruin of my own legacy. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat shouting the truth I had been oblivious to. The facade she built to shield herself from her own reality had begun to crumble, and I was left standing amidst the wreckage of both our lives. As the room filled with whispers and anxious glances, I felt an inexplicable synergy of rage and betrayal swell within me. I watched Sarah, her posture tense, eyes darting nervously between the agents and the door, as if the walls might offer her an escape route. This was the moment I had been dreading. My mind raced, replaying our life together in a frantic loop, grasping for any signs I had missed, for the truths hidden beneath the glossy surface of her smiles and laughter. "Marco, please," Sarah whispered sharply, urgency playing on her features. I could hear the thin veneer of calm fracturing as I moved, unreeling toward her like an uncontrollable wave. But I couldn't look away from the agents. "Can you tell us about her recent financial activity?" one of them pressed, and I felt the tension shift in the room, like the air before an impending storm. "Excuse me," I interjected, my voice barely above a whisper, yet resonating with a conviction I didn't know I had. "You can't just waltz in here and—" "Marco," Sarah pleaded, her voice thin, cutting through my rising ire. "Trust me, let me handle this." Handle this? My heart felt like it was cracking in two, the weight of her trust and the underlying betrayal pressing like a vice around my chest. Did she really think she still had that right? "No," I said, my voice sharp as a knife. "I need to know the truth, Sarah. What's going on?" The room was silent. All eyes were fixed on us, my cousins, the agents, the lawyer. I could almost feel the heat of judgment, their relationship with me morphing under the strain of newfound knowledge. I felt naked, exposed, everything clawing to come to light. The lead agent pushed his glasses up his nose, his expression unwavering. "Miss Matthews, we believe you've been hiding significant assets under your name. We need your cooperation to understand the nature of this account." A flash of disbelief crossed Sarah's face, followed by an orchestrated shock that didn't quite convince me. "That doesn't sound right," she stammered, her voice faltering. "I haven't hidden anything. You must be mistaken." But her confidence was slipping, and she knew it. The facade she had crafted so carefully began to show cracks, and I stood frozen, a bystander to the unraveling of everything we built. Seeing her reveled in fright, I could feel the roles of our relationship shifting. There was a simmering anger that needed an outlet, urging me to act rather than stand there, paralyzed by confusion. My own questions flowed, fueled by desperation. "Why would the FBI care about your account, Sarah? What have you been hiding?" Each word was laden with accusation, spitting truth into the air like it was an explosive. Her eyes narrowed, fury igniting in their depths. "Marco, you're being manipulated. Don't believe them." I recoiled slightly at her tone, torn between anger and sympathy. "Why should I believe you? You've hidden things from me, Sarah, important things." The tension escalated further as the agents waited, their presence an anchor to the chaos. "Ms. Matthews," the second agent interjected, his gaze steadier than any grounding I could find. "If you cooperate, we could minimize the ensuing consequences." "Cooperate?" Sarah's laughter was brittle, a shattered glass about to fall. "You want me to just expose my entire life to you without even a hint of proof?" Her defiance struck a chord deep inside of me, vibrating with the realization that her outbursts were merely a facade. The chilling reality began to hit me. The lavish lifestyle she had cloaked us in echoed with deception. While I had been painting a life of simple joys, she had been fashioning a narrative that involved secrets and lies. "Enough," one of the agents said, sliding a folder over to Sarah. "This document outlines our findings. It's not a happy story." I leaned forward, squinting in curiosity at the papers that lay before her, but still felt my body anchored in indecision. I wanted answers, but the intensity of the moment dug its claws deep. Sarah opened the folder slowly, her hands trembling as she read. As I studied her features, I knew the moment she recognized the truth. Her eyes widened, and the blood drained from her face, leaving paleness in its wake. I could only imagine the contents, details of transactions, names I wasn't privy to, sums of money that felt like they were feeding shadows that loomed in dark corners of our lives. Suddenly, Sarah slammed the folder closed. "Energy radiating off her in waves. This is ridiculous. There must be a mistake." I felt disbelief flood my veins alongside the anger that threatened to burst. "A mistake? Sarah, you know this isn't just some misunderstanding." It was in that moment, standing across from my wife-turned-stranger, I felt resolve ignite in my chest. I would no longer be a passive observer. I had to know the truth, no matter how devastating. A fire had lit beneath my skin, and right now, I was done gaslighting myself into believing everything was fine. Her face twisted in anguish. A myriad of emotions played across her features: fear, anger, guilt. But all I could focus on was the shard of betrayal embedded deep in my heart. As people began to murmur and speculations crawled around the room, I stepped closer. "Why didn't you trust me?" I implored, searching her eyes for anything, the love I thought was still there, something beyond the surface despair. Her face twisted in anguish. A myriad of emotions played across her features: fear, anger, guilt. But all I could focus on was the shard of betrayal embedded deep in my heart.
As people began to murmur and speculations crawled around the room, I stepped closer. "Why didn't you trust me?" I implored, searching her eyes for anything, the love I thought was still there, something beyond the surface despair. "We could have gotten through this together." Sarah looked away, a fracture splitting our history in the moment. "You wouldn't understand, Marco," she said, her voice a whisper now, carrying the weight of unfulfilled promises. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I echoed, unable to wrap my mind around the twisted logic. "By lying to me?" Tears glistened in her eyes, but they only served to solidify the wall I felt rising between us. She turned then, finally breaking eye contact, a movement that felt like a gaping wound in my own heart. The connection we had shared seemed so fragile in the wake of this situation, almost pathetic. The FBI agents exchanged glances but remained silent, letting the silence settle like dust on the air. Each moment stretched into infinity, heavy with emotion and uncertainty. I stood amidst the turmoil, my heart aching, knowing I needed to break through her defenses, to unearth the real Sarah, the woman I had promised my life to. "Sarah," I said firmly, "we have to face this together. Whatever it is, we'll get through it." But I felt her pull away, another crack widening in the facade I had clung to desperately. "You don't get it," she whispered. "I'm not the woman you think I am." And in that moment, with everything hanging in the balance, I knew I was stepping onto a path that could change everything. I was no longer just Marco Phillips, the loving husband. I was a man on the brink of discovery, a man ready to face the truth of our unraveling life. As the agents stood by, their presence felt like shadows looming over us, bearing witness to every word exchanged. I turned back to Sarah, my heart pounding against my rib cage as I fought to bridge the emotional chasm that had opened between us. "Then tell me who you are, please," I urged, desperation creeping into my voice. Her body language shifted. I saw a flicker of panic flit across her face. She took a deep breath as if bracing for an emotional storm. "Before I met you," she started, her voice trembling, "I was involved with some people. Dangerous people. The kind of people who don't let go." A chill raced down my spine. "What kind of choices, Sarah?" I pressed, unease surging within me. "I thought I could leave that life behind. When I met you, I believed I could start fresh. But they didn't let me go," she said, her gaze wavering as if the weight of her confession threatened to buckle her. "When they found me again, it was like running into a wall." "Found you? Who are they? How serious is this?" Panic gripped my chest, twisting it tighter. "They're criminals, Marco, and I thought I could manage it," she retorted, frustration bubbling within her. "But I didn't count on them escalating their demands." "Demands?" My voice rose in incredulity. "You mean to say this whole time you were involved in something illegal?" "It was always to protect you," she insisted, her voice ringing with urgency. "I thought shielding you from my past would keep you safe." But things got out of control. The realization struck me like a punch to the gut. So lying to me was your way of helping? I struggled to hold back the anger and hurt pouring from me. Now everything is shattered. "They'll come for me, Marco," she said urgently, her eyes wide with fear. "They know about the inheritance, your father's money. It's the only way they'll let me go." A wave of understanding crashed over me. "You mean they're using that against you?" "Yes, they believe they can leverage your father's death, or me, to get what they want. I thought I could protect you, but my past is starting to catch up," she said, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you reach out for help?" I asked, feeling helpless. "Why didn't you tell me the truth? I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could manage on my own," she shouted, her frustration raised like a storm. "So now what? You intend to go back to them? What will stopping them even look like?" I was desperate for answers, my mind racing.
We can't just ignore these threats, Sarah. I need to get back in touch with them, she said, her gaze falling to the floor. I have to find out what they want, assure them that I still have this under control, however ridiculous that sounds. I shook my head in disbelief. Control? The FBI is involved now, and you think they'll just walk away because you can manage their demands? I can't do this without you, Marco, she whispered, pleading eyes locking onto mine. It's dangerous, but right now it'll seem like I'm compliant. I can find a way to minimize the fallout. As another silence consumed us, I grappled with my own emotions. Her words spiraled through my mind, merging with fear, anger, and worrying concern for the woman I still loved, despite the confusion she had introduced into our lives.
I understood this was a reckoning for both of us, a colossal transition to reshape our very foundation. Whatever it takes, I finally said, resolve hardening my voice, but we navigate this together. No more secrets. We must smash through this wall you've built. Her breath hitched, caught between relief and anxiety. You're willing to help me after everything? If it means we can secure our future, absolutely, I replied, determination igniting within me. But first, let's think this through together. Sarah picked up her phone, her hands shaking slightly as she dialed a number I didn't recognize. I felt dread wash over me. As it rang, the air thickened with tension, profound fears coiling around us like a living entity. Finally, when someone picked up, Sarah took a deep breath before speaking, clarity igniting behind her voice, but also a flicker of uncertainty. "I'm ready to talk," she said, confidence edging into her tone. As she spoke, I felt the fraying edges of our lives tightening, desperately seeking to knit back together. With every word she exchanged, I sensed a profound shift in our dynamic. This wasn't merely about protecting her anymore. It was about us working to reclaim our lives from the suffocating grip of her past. The agents continued to observe, but I was aware that in that moment nothing else mattered but our resolve. She went on, navigating the conversation with a combination of fear and determination I had never seen before. It struck me that throughout this ordeal, I had seen glimpses of the hopeful woman I fell in love with, the passionate fighter willing to go to great lengths to reclaim her freedom, even if that meant confronting the darkness looming over her past. I moved closer to her, offering silent encouragement, reassured by our newfound partnership. "Whatever happens next, we hold fast," I murmured to her, a promise that we wouldn't submit to the fear threatening to envelop us.
She glanced back at me, a glimmer of hope dancing in her eyes amidst the chaos swirling around us. The urgency of the moment solidified my determination. Together, we would unravel this mess, revealing the truths that had been hidden for so long. "I won't let them take you from me," I declared, bracing myself for whatever awaited us on this treacherous road ahead. With each moment, every whispered conversation, we were beginning to carve a new narrative from the wreckage of what remained, a story brimming with uncertainty, yet still threaded by the raw emotions binding us. As Sarah concluded her call, she turned to me, her gaze fierce. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe, Marco." I believed her. But now we were navigating a precarious labyrinth, one filled with threats from the shadows. Each twist and turn could lead us deeper into danger or back toward our shared reality. Together, we would forge a path illuminated by truth and unity,
no matter what grim future loomed before us. The silence that followed Sarah's call was thick, wrapping around us like a shroud. I glanced at her, my heart racing as we steeled ourselves for what lay ahead. The intensity of the situation ebbed and flowed like a tide, but I could see the determination in her eyes. This wasn't merely about her anymore, it was about us, reclaiming our lives from the grip of her murky past. "Marco," she said, breaking the heaviness, "they want to meet. It's urgent." Fear and resolve danced in her gaze, underscoring the weight of the moment. "I don't want you to go with me,
but I can't handle this alone." "Do we have a choice?" I asked, tension knotting in my stomach. "Where are we meeting them?" "A warehouse on the outskirts, near the docks," she replied, her voice steady despite the turbulence within. "They're expecting me to play the part." "What part?" I demanded, needing her to understand the precariousness of the situation. "You said these people are dangerous. What if they threaten you again?" "Then we play it smart," she insisted. "I'll keep them talking, and while I do, you look for an opportunity." Her confidence was a breath of fresh air amidst the chaos. The sun began to dip below the skyline, casting long shadows as we arrived at the warehouse. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest. "Are you sure this is the right place?" I asked, scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. "This is it. They always operate in shadows," she stated, her resolve unwavering. We stepped out of the car, the air heavy and electric, heightening my awareness of every sound. With each step toward the loading dock, my nerves frayed further. The graffiti-covered walls and remnants of old crates made it feel like a battleground of broken dreams. The darkness of twisted pasts loomed heavily over us. As we crossed the threshold into the warehouse, the stale air wrapped around us like a blanket. The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting an eerie glow. Ahead stood Jules, a muscular figure from Sarah's past, leaning against a crate, his smile predatory. "Glad you could make it," he drawled, his eyes drifting over Sarah with a mix of familiarity and menace. "I was concerned you'd gotten soft." "Save the pleasantries, Jules. Let's just get to the point," Sarah shot back, her voice unwavering despite the tension thickening the atmosphere. "Oh, you're in a hurry?" he teased, stepping forward and narrowing the space between us. "I was just getting reacquainted with the lovely Marco here, the devoted husband. Hope he's prepared for the dirty side of your life." I barely restrained the anger bubbling within me. "Let's cut to the chase. What do you want?" I interjected, scanning the room for signs of backup or hidden threats. Jules seemed amused, but tension crackled in the air. "We're here to discuss your father's will. You know it's a problem that doesn't just fade away." "You think we're here for small talk?" Sarah retorted, standing her ground beside me. "You're mistaken if you think I'll entertain your bravado." Jules chuckled darkly. "Oh, I remember you well. Just showing a little concern for my favorite runaway." A flicker of something dangerous crossed her face, and I felt her hand tighten around mine. "I'm done with this life. I'm not going back." "Your past doesn't forget so easily," Jules countered, leaning closer. "You may shield yourself with love now, but your past always finds a way to pierce through." Before I could react, the warehouse door swung open with a bang, and in walked two men flanking a woman dressed in leather, exuding confidence and danger. This was clearly another layer in a complex game we couldn't comprehend. "Have we got a party going on without me?" she said, eyeing the room like a hawk. "Come on, Jules, don't keep our guests waiting too long." The tension in the room escalated, and for a split second, I exchanged glances with Sarah, both of us acutely aware that we were at a crossroads. How could we navigate this web of deception and danger? With a firm voice, Sarah spoke up. "We are here to settle this once and for all. No more games." "This isn't a game, sweetheart. It's survival," Jules replied, his smile fading. "You owe a debt, and debts are always settled. You should know that by now." My heart raced as I took in the scene, uncertainty creeping in. Sarah's earthly resolve and Jules's venomous charm locked the atmosphere into a precarious standoff. Everyone seemed to lean in, the gravity of the moment making the air feel dense. "We're not here to negotiate," I insisted, my voice cutting through the tension. "What are you willing to offer in return?" Jules raised an eyebrow, the poorly concealed interest morphing into something much darker.
You're looking to bargain, Marco? That's amusing. But it won't help Sarah. Sarah is not a pawn in this, I asserted.
Steeling myself. Before anyone could respond, the woman strutted closer, her presence commanding the room, her eyes studying Sarah and me with a calculating gaze. What you need to understand is that you're stepping into dangerous waters. Your precious wife may have escaped once, but the current pulls just as hard the second time. If you oppose the tide, you'll drown. I could feel Sarah beside me. Our hands were still linked, but the pressure of the moment began to strain our bond. "Marco, focus," she whispered urgently. "We won't let them intimidate us. Together." Just then, Jules' tone shifted. A devilish grin broke across his face. "Why don't we make this interesting? Let's have some fun with your reunion." He stepped back, motioning for the others to flank us, closing in as the energy shifted from discussion to hostility. "Enough games," Sarah called,
her voice cutting through the encroaching darkness. "We've come to resolve this, and we will." "Resolve? Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea what you're asking," Jules smirked, the malice coloring his words. "But tell me, what happens if the two of you don't walk out?" At that moment, the stakes escalated, and the air grew thick with tension. I could see the fear in Sarah's eyes merge with resolve. We were standing on the precipice of danger, but together we would fight. "Together," I echoed, tightening my grip on her hand. "Whatever happens, we're doing this together." Each of us faced the gathering storm around us, the weight of the unresolved past pressing down as secrets hung thick in the air. As we prepared for whatever lay ahead, I felt an unyielding bond of love and determination. We were ready to confront the shadows, ready to carve a path through chaos, come what may. Two hearts united in the fight against everything that threatened to unravel us. Whatever lay ahead, we would do it together. The stillness was electric as we squared off against Jules and his crew. The air in the warehouse vibrated with unspoken challenges and brewing conflict. Sarah's presence ignited a fierce determination in me. We would not be easily intimidated. Each second ticked by, agonizingly slow, as I could feel anxiety curling in my stomach like a serpent ready to strike. Jules stepped forward, a self-satisfied smile creeping across his face. "You think you're ready to challenge me? You don't understand what you're up against. The tide is relentless," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Call it what you want, but we're not backing down," Sarah replied, her voice steady as bedrock. "You've manipulated our lives for the last time. We're drawing the line." "Bold words for someone on the losing end," he shot back. "Are you really prepared to see the lengths I'll go to keep my control?" Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. I sensed an underlying tension. A readiness for violence lurking just beneath the surface. "What do you want, Jules?" I demanded, cutting through the taut air. "Tell us what to expect." A new figure emerged as the main threat from the shadows, a woman with steely resolve. "It's not just about the money or power anymore, sweethearts," she said, her eyes narrowing into slits, full of malice. "This is personal now, and that's more dangerous than you realize." We exchanged a quick glance, Sarah and I, both braced for whatever might come next. "We didn't come here for games. Just say what you need or we're walking out," I asserted, my courage unfurling against the dark. Jules chuckled darkly. "You really believe it would be that easy? You're underestimating a level of commitment you haven't seen yet. You want out? Then you have to prove yourselves first." "What kind of proof are we talking about?" Sarah challenged, her confidence unwavering. "We'll settle this tonight. Let's raise the stakes," Jules replied,
waving a hand dismissively. "You survive here, you win your freedom. But if you lose, well, I think you can expect a very different outcome." "What do you mean by survive?"
I asked, narrowing my eyes, feeling a sense of dread creeping into the corners of my mind. Let's just say there are obstacles, he grinned, gesturing to the exits where shadows deepened. My little friends love a good challenge, and tonight, good luck will be your only ally. You want to walk away from this unscathed? You'll have to hope reflexes are on your side. Before I could form a response, the room exploded into action. The dimly lit warehouse erupted around us. Several menacing figures stepped out from the shadows, eyes filled with predatory zeal. I tightened my grip on Sarah's hand, ready to confront the oncoming storm. "Stick close," I shouted as chaos erupted. Jules and his henchmen charged at us, adrenaline surging through me as I pushed Sarah behind me. "Stay behind me," I snarled, my instincts kicking into overdrive as I squared my shoulders. The first man lunged for me, and I ducked to evade his blow, heart racing as I felt the rush of air whoosh past my head. I countered with a swift punch, feeling the satisfying connection as my fist struck his jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. "Marco, watch out!" Sarah shouted, her voice piercing the den as another man focused on her. But before he could reach her, she grabbed a rusty pipe from the ground and swung it fiercely, catching him on the side of the leg. The man howled, crashing to the floor. A swift sense of pride bloomed in my chest. Sarah was fighting beside me. But no sooner did I celebrate our teamwork than a second attacker barreled in from the side, tackling me to the ground. I tried to retaliate, but he pinned my arms, fear flickering in the back of my mind as I struggled against his weight. "Get off him!" Sarah shouted, desperation replacing fear as she charged forward. I could see her determination burning brighter than ever. In that instant, she became a beacon, illuminating the chaos. With a swift kick, Sarah connected with my attacker, knocking him off balance just enough for me to escape his grip. I quickly scrambled to my feet, catching sight of her wielding the pipe with fierce resolve, the echo of metal on flesh heightening the desperate circumstances. More figures emerged, their menacing smiles threatening to surround us, but we were drawing on something deeper, a bond forged in fire. Together, we were ready to take on whatever they threw at us. "We can't let them corner us," I yelled to Sarah, pushing her back to create space between us and them. "We find a way out." Together, we fought fiercely against the oncoming tide of deception. Every instinct reminded me that we weren't just fighting for our lives. We were fighting for our freedom, the right to live without fear of past decisions' burdensome chains. Back to back, we maneuvered through the cramped space. Each blow we exchanged with our attackers, sending waves of adrenaline surging through our bodies. "Left!" Sarah shouted, twisting to swing the pipe, knocking another attacker down even as her heart raced alongside mine. I could see Jules watching, a mix of amusement and irritation playing across his features, but something deeper lurked beneath. He had taken a gamble. The fight was fueling his need to maintain a balance of power. "See, this is fun," he said with a wicked smile. It served only to fuel my resolve further. "You think we're going to entertain you?" I shouted back at him between blows. "This is our fight, and this ends right here." As we worked in tandem, our movements became fluid. We were like a well-practiced dance, pivoting and striking. With every punch exchanged, the previous doubts began to fade from within me. Breathless, I scanned the warehouse's shadows, searching for any possible exit as two more figures circled toward us. "Wait for my signal," I uttered to Sarah, gauging their movements. As the men approached, I noticed a beam partially dislodged from the wall, an opening to the outside. "Now," I commanded, rushing alongside Sarah toward the exit, the resistance of the attackers closing in like a noose. In that final push, adrenaline propelled us forward, hearts pounding in sync. Just as we reached the opening, one of the attackers lunged and managed to snag my shirt, pulling me backward. But Sarah was already one step ahead. She swung the pipe with all her might. The impact sent the attacker sprawling back, his grip loosening. "Run!" she shouted, urgency flooding her tone, and with that, I dashed for the opening. We burst through the makeshift exit, tumbling into the cool night air beyond. At the same moment, I heard shouts from within the warehouse. But we were finally outside, finally free from the immediate danger that had threatened to envelop us. The moon shone brightly in the clear sky, illuminating the looming threats that sat in the distance but no longer blinded us. As we caught our breath, I turned to Sarah. "We made it!" She looked at me, disbelief mingled with joy. "But it's not over yet. They'll come for us, you know." "We'll be ready," I replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, a comforting embrace that anchored us against the storm we had just escaped. "After what we've survived back there, we can face anything now." Despite the pounding of my heart, I felt a flicker of hope blossoming inside, a promise of a future unshackled by the chains of fear. "Together," I vowed again, our hands intertwining once more. "Yes, together," she echoed, determination etched across her face as we positioned ourselves against the backdrop of an uncertain horizon. Whatever lay ahead, our love had forged an indomitable strength between us, and we would rise. The shadows loomed, but they no longer held the power to dictate our lives. Together, we would take back what had been stolen, carve our paths from the chaos, and emerge unscathed. With Sarah at my side, I knew we were ready to confront the future, a future built not in fear, but in resilience and love.